Hi, and welcome to the Days Gone podcast. I'm Claire Weaver, a screenwriter, author, and Days Gone fan, and this podcast is a place to discuss the game in all its glory, share my opinions, both popular and unpopular, and listen to me fangirl over one of the best games ever made. There will be spoilers ahead, so continue at your own risk. Welcome to the Freak Show. I can't believe it's been 2 years since the last podcast episode. A lot has happened in that time, but a lot has stayed the same. The biggest thing that's happened has to be the release of Days Gone Remastered, or if you're on PC, the Broken Road DLC. What an amazing surprise that was from Bend Studio. Not that we need another excuse to play the game again, but it's been so cool having new game modes, better graphics, and vastly improved gameplay options. Hopefully, its success may just be the nudge Sony needs to finally move forward with Days Gone 2. Also, hey Drifter, why don't you stop hiding in those bushes and check out my new Days Gone channel? It's a collaboration between myself and Spornicus Rex, where we dig deep into the hidden lore and untold stories of Days Gone. We break down the characters, explore backstory, and uncover details most players miss. It's like an evolution of the podcast. There's a link in the description, or you can just search for Hey Drifter on YouTube. As for the things that have stayed the same in the last 2 years, well, I still stream Days Gone on my YouTube channel, 8-Bit Terror. Well, it's now YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, so you can take your pick. And I've come up with some insanely creative challenges for playthroughs. I'm currently attempting what I'm calling a scavenger run, where I'm not buying any ammo, guns, supplies, or fuel from camps, and I'm only allowed to loot each item in the game one time. Oh yeah, and I'm on Survival 2 in full Deacon cosplay. Again, there's a link in the description, or you can just search for 8-Bit Terror. Okay, on to the episode. Today I'm speaking with Sam Puefua, the voice actor for Eddy Apuna, leader of the Pinnacles camp. If your first thought was, who? Followed by, where? Don't worry, you didn't miss a big chunk of the game. Well, actually, you did. We all did. Pinnacles is a map region that was almost entirely cut from the game, with a camp by the same name run by Eddy. Sam hasn't had the opportunity to spill the details on Pinnacles until now. So let's get into it.
We'll just spill it all right here at 8-Bit Terror. When I did film it and work with John and James, even Sam Witwer, I had a good time filming the game. So I'm glad you hit me up about it.
I gotta say, I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me. I know it was like, it's kind of weird because it's like you didn't end up in the game. And I'm sure that you probably feel a certain way about that. But I'm just so grateful that you answered my message in the first place, you know, because it's like just some rando messaging you out of the blue. But it's like everyone who's involved in this game has been super awesome. Like, I'm a lowly nerd who loves this video game. And I've gotten to talk to, you, James Allen McCune, who played Wade, Sam Witwer, John Garvin, Jeff Ross, Eric Jensen, Bernardo De Paula, Jason Spizak. I've talked to so many people who were involved in the game, and everyone has been so lovely and so amazing, and everyone has, like, you know, nice things to say about the whole process. And I'm a super nerd for it, so it's really nice to know that the people who worked on something that you love, you know, they had a good time, and they're like almost as nerdy as you are about it.
Yeah, it sounds like them. When I first got into set, Sam, like, I've been a fan of Sam for like so long. I remember watching his TV show Being Human. And so when I got the chance to finally work with him, like, dude, he just, you know, he felt like just another guy. And same with James. James, who I've been longtime friends with now, he'll check up on me every once in a while. So when you say that, you know, everyone's so sweet, I'm like, that's how I experienced it when I got to set. So aside from the character not showing up on the game, outside of that, I again, I had a total blast. Everyone was nice, so I really don't have any like harsh feelings against, and stuff like that happens anyway. This is the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a role and you think you're gonna be in there, and then hard decisions have to be made. I say that to say that I have no harsh feelings for whatever happens.
I figure we might as well just start at the beginning, and I wanted to ask you what the audition process was like.
So I treated the audition like I treat any other audition. Just you get the sides and you show up. But I mean, I think this was like the beginning of when self tapes were starting to come out. Even before COVID happened, self tapes became like predominantly the way of auditioning. But um, I did a self tape, and I didn't know I didn't know at first that they only wanted a voice audition. But I said the self tape and not knowing that, and they reached back to me and said, "You know what? Even though we asked for a voice audition, I think this was better because then I only had to audition once, and I booked it off of that."
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember how the character Eddy Apuna was described in the casting sheet?
Yes, he was mid-20s, or late 20s at the time, especially. But he was a big, brawly guy. Was one of those gentle giants. He's a leader in a way, because he was a leader of his own camp, and he's very tough until he gets to know what kind of person you are, and then he lets down, his guard, and he's a very friendly person after that.
John Garvin had mentioned there was a football player who runs a camp. Do you know if that was Eddy?
Yeah, that was Eddie, because Eddie was going to, I think it's pronounced Kimmel College out there for a full football scholarship, and he
Oh,
was
no
one of those.
way! The
Yeah,
Community College?
yeah. That college, and he was like one of the star players until everything happened. Yeah, and then like the rest of the citizens and people there, they all had to find a way to survive in those woods, and he ended up, one way or another, leading the Pinnacle camp and selling some drugs on the side to kind of keep the people, keep, I guess, keep the camp running and its people enough funding to help them survive in that time.
Was he meant to be like sympathetic, shady, comic relief? Like, what was the tone of that character?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit of comic relief, and he wasn't shady, but he was doing something that I guess he was doing something that was a little bit shady. He was control of like the drugs, and it wasn't like heavy drugs. It was mostly like weed and stuff like that. That was the connection between Eddie and Wade. Is that Wade needed, he was selling for Eddie at his camp.
Do you remember, was it at Pinnacles or was it a different camp? Or because John Garvin had mentioned several different camps, and I know that data miners have gone through kind of like on PC the remnants of missions and map regions and stuff, and there's like a lot of different regions that were cut. And I think John even mentioned there were 2 camps that were cut. Or maybe it was Jeff Ross mentioned that. But I know there was like a massive amount of stuff that was supposed to go in the game that ended up getting cut in terms of just geographical regions. So
Yeah,
Pinnacles, I know, is related to Eddie's character because we have that in-game collectible that's still in there. You can still
yeah,
find it in the game. Do you know if your camp, or sorry, yours, Eddie's camp, was at Pinnacles?
yeah. It was Pinnacle. That's the camp Eddie was running.
Okay. And that was the name of the camp. So I know that was the name of the like a map region as well.
Yeah, I did see when it happened. I think I forget when the game came out. Do you remember what year the game came out?
2019.
2019. Okay, I remember maybe 5 or 6 months in, I did get I got tagged on a few things. And I remember seeing a video of a girl playing, and her bike hit a car as she flew up in the air. And
Mm-hmm.
then it showed a little glimpse of a region that's not there, and it was
Yeah.
Pinnacle. Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen
that
that
was
same
it.
video. And there's a bunch of different glitches. I was actually trying to do it just the other week. I couldn't get it to glitch into that region, but there are a number of spots where
Uh,
you can like glitch into it, and apparently it is still like a map region. There's nothing there, but there's a large area that the words on screen come up saying Pinnacles region. How much dialogue did you record? Like, did you do full cinematic scenes with mocap, or was it just dialogue? Like, how much story was Eddy supposed to have?
oh, he had his own story arc with Deacon and Taylor.
Oh yeah.
And the colonel. They were all connected because the colonel obviously, and he's the law in that world,
Mm-hmm.
from what I remember, and even the selling of weed or any type of medical help in any way in his camp without his knowing and without his benefit, is against the law. And he found out what Eddy was doing with Taylor. Somewhere along the line, Eddy gets they go to the Pinnacle camp, and Eddy gets beat up by by his henchmen.
Oh shit.
And Deacon, again, at first, Eddy, skeptical of everybody because it's the time that they're at. Taylor brings Deacon in to introduce Eddy to Deacon at first, but then when he mentioned football and mentioned Eddy playing football, all of a sudden he opens up like, oh, he knows about pigskin. Oh, this is my man. This is my peoples right here. And so there's that bond with him and Eddy, and that kind of carries through with after Eddy gets beat up, and Deacon is tasked with like having to dispose Eddy. Deacon does the the right thing and the good man thing, and let Eddy survive.
Interesting, because
So
there's a storyline similar to that with one of the other characters in the militia region. There's a side character called Crystal who is basically doesn't want anything to do with the militia, but she's sort of like conscripted or whatever. She's like made to join, and they soon realize she
mhm.
has an attitude problem and she's not gonna conform. So they put her in like the work camp, and she escapes because she's like, fuck that. I don't want to be here
Yeah,
anyway. Like, I'm not going to work for you.
yeah,
Like, screw this. And she manages to escape. Deacon's tasked with tracking her down and killing her. And what he does is he just takes her jewelry, her rings, as like proof that he found her and killed her, but he lets her go. So it's interesting. There was a similar thing with Eddy. I wonder if they maybe used crystals like a truncated version of that storyline because they didn't have room for the whole Eddy storyline, the whole of Pinnacles. They're like, we want to cut this, but we still want Deacon to be defying the Colonel's rules. So maybe
yeah.
they just truncated it.
So Wade got captured, and Eddy, I think I remember Eddy calling Deacon to come in and or to go and retrieve him or find him and save him for a small favor. And then on the way back, Deacon finds out that the Colonel and I think it's Corey were all heading to Pinnacle, and that's when he finds out that they already came and basically beat up Eddy, and they're just waiting to in a way execute him, but they're waiting for Deacon to arrive.
Oh, okay. So in the original, you had Taylor getting captured. So Eddy calls
Hmm.
Deacon or whatever, radios him and says, hey, he's been kidnapped. You got to go rescue him. Goes and
Hmm.
rescues him, takes him to Pinnacle. Or as he's doing that, he finds out that Eddy's being beat up by Curry or militia people.
Militia people, like the Colonel and Corey, uh, found their way or made their way towards Pinnacle, from what I remember.
So
And
the Colonel actually left Wizard Island and went to Pinnacles, was like part
yeah,
of that.
hmm
Wow. And they're waiting
yeah,
for Deacon to show up to like what kind of join in, and Deacon's sort of Well, this is awkward because Eddie's my friend.
Yeah, well, he kind of played along. From what I remember in the scene, he kind of played along and pretended that he was you know, gonna take me back to their camp so I can get hanged or Eddie get hanged. And along the way, he does the right thing and ends up faking the escape. So
That's
I think that's the only case for Eddie to survive.
yeah.
Is that he plays along, Deacon that is plays along, and
Mm,
then on the way he pretends to let the old man go, or not old man, but the football dude go.
yeah. So Boozer and Iron Mike won in that storyline. I think the wiki might be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm trying to remember exactly what motions I shot, but I do remember the scenes and who I was working with um, while filming.
Who else did you work
Uh,
with?
so if I remember correctly, I mean I have a photo I took a photo of all of us. It's a cool photo. It was me, Sam Witwer, James, Phil Morris. There might have been one other. It was a lady, but I only had like maybe a slight scene with her. The rest of the scenes was just those four.
Do
Um,
you remember the tone of that scene? Like, oh, like kind of who she might have been? Like, because the main female characters, the reason I'm asking, the main female characters in that part of the game, you have Sarah, Deacon's wife, that he's, looking for,
mhm,
that he finds at Crater Lake. She's been kind of co-opted into the militia. Um,
mhm.
you have Crystal, the woman that I mentioned, but I doubt it would have been her because it seems like she was sort of a replacement for some of your story beats, maybe. I'm trying to think who else. There's not really many female characters. There's Ricky, played by Nishi Munshi, but she's in Lost Lake. She never comes to the southern regions. I don't think there's
Yeah.
any other major female characters in the southern part of the map.
I can tell you this: it definitely wasn't Sarah because I remember Sarah being one of the first a name being mentioned in one of the first scenes is when
Mm-hmm.
Eddie meets Deacon in front of the camp, and uh, and Taylor gestures to him like show Eddie the picture of this lady that you're looking
Oh,
for, and
yeah.
Eddie looks at it, and he doesn't recognize her, hasn't or she's never been in that camp.
John Garvin mentioned there's a camp to the east of Crater Lake, which I think is where the Pinnacles region is in the game, where you can kind of glitch into it. There's a camp there that Sarah was supposed to have been sent to, and it got overrun by freaks. And that's one of the reasons why Deacon thinks that she's dead. But he was never able to find her body.
Mm,
But there is supposedly a cut mission. I think it was John who mentions this. There's a cut mission where you were supposed to go to that camp and search for evidence of Sarah being dead or being not dead. And I was wondering if because literally the place that he described it as is like the salt flats and to the east of the map that lines up with Pinnacles. Again, that area was supposed to be huge and it got cut because it
yeah,
was just everything was getting too big. But yeah, I wonder if it was something to do with that. It would make sense that if there was a mission to go search for evidence in that region, that would
hmm
be a good kind of in of like, oh, Wade can introduce you to Eddie, and Eddie runs this region or whatever, and your character would know if she'd been there.
I mean that would have been awesome. 'Cause I think if that was the case, Eddie would definitely been involved a little bit more into the game if she was there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and into the story. Yeah, no, it from what I remember and that whole interaction in the first scene. Yeah, she wasn't there at the pinnacle.
Was there a scene that you filmed, or do you know if there was supposed to be a moment where Eddie and Wade like meet for the first time, or are they characters with connected backstories, like they've known each other for a couple of years or a few months or something?
Taylor was a drifter I remember him bouncing back and forth through camps,
Hmm.
and eventually he ends up in Eddie's camp for a little bit before moving on to the recent camp that he's in now. So I think I can assume that they've known each other for for a while, a few months or so. I'm not entirely sure, but they do. I mean, they do know each other well enough to where Eddie will look into something that Taylor brings to him for his attention, and
Hmm.
they do have a secret spot where they go and smoke. So that's a I think it takes time to build that type of relationship. You can assume that they probably know each other for like a year or so, or however long it takes for a friendship to build within the situation that they're in.
So you mentioned they have a secret spot. James talked about shooting a scene where Deacon and Taylor and Eddie get high together.
Yeah.
Was that maybe at that secret spot?
Um. No, it's that was at Eddie's camp, like his own tent, and they were smoking in this in his tent on the site or at the camp. But no, Eddie and Taylor they have a location off camp, I believe, where they grow weed, and
The pot
nobody
farm.
can.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to, I got really excited because there's mention in the data miners finding a region that is a pot farm, and there's a pot farm in the northern part of the map that was the
Okay.
MC. It was the Mongrels MC's pot farm, but apparently there was a second pot farm, and so that was Eddie's like secret little
Yeah.
grow area.
Yeah, that was his little grow area, and that's it only from what I remember, only Eddie and Taylor or Wade knew are the only ones that knew about it. Until obviously until Deacon has to go and save Wade, and he ends up having to find this this pot grower spot.
Did you see any of like the art of this region? Do you know anything about what it was supposed to look like?
No, and so I think we shot this in 2000 and either 16 or 17, and I was still kind of like early in my career as far as like working for studios and stuff like that. And I kind of stray away from like asking them like, "Hey, can I see your art for this?" Because I mean, I kind of I'm comfortable now to be able to go like, "Hey, is there a visual for what this scene would look like?" Now because I've done a few mocaps already.
Hmm.
But in the beginning, no, I was too shy. I was too shy to ask. I was like, "Hey, can you show me a picture of what this scene would look like?"
Oh.
Yeah,
Do you remember how
but
Eddie's storyline was supposed to end?
I think it's where Deacon leaves them. So Deacon has them on his bike, and they're off. They're supposed to be heading towards the militia's camp, but on the way, Deacon basically tells them like, "Hey, we're faking this fight, and you pretend that you fought your way off, and we both fell off this bike, and you knocked me out, and you escaped." I think the last few things I can remember is that Eddie said he was going to go look for his people and start over and hopefully do better, as far as like keeping them safe, whatever this time.
What do you think that means? Like, look for his people.
I do remember diving a little deep with Eddie in the beginning of like his story. His people will always be the people he's with. At first, it used to mean his people as far as like his family and friends back in Hawaii, but
Hmm.
now, because he lost all connection and all hopes of having, being able to travel back home, his people are the people that he's with, and the people who look after each other, in his camp or whoever he's with. And so the people he's talking about, I think, are the people that he had uh, in his camp following his leadership. And some of them escaped when the militia came. So I think that's who he's looking. Whoever it is, whoever he can find. Because I remember writing, what will happen after this, even if it's nothing, even if it goes nowhere. In what I wrote is that Eddie would find his people, and maybe not stay so close. I think. I mean, I wrote something that didn't make sense, but I was like, maybe find a different location, something that's not as woody, but something where you can see the landscape and be able to know what's coming your way, so that way you can protect yourself a little better.
That's actually a really sweet ending that does fit in so well with the themes, the optimistic side of the themes of Days Gone, because there's a lot about, Days Gone is a very brutal world. The tagline is "This world comes for you." And you see it with everything from, enemies to wildlife to the weather. There's so much that is just out to murder you in the game and in the world, and thematically, for all the characters, nobody has any hope. Hope and humanity is gone, except few characters, Iron Mike, Ricky, and it sounds like Eddie were kind of embodying this. Well, we know things suck right now, but we need to put our eyes on a different future if mankind and humanity is going to survive. It's like, we can do what we want day by day, but surviving isn't living, and at a certain point, you've got to stop just surviving and you've got to get back to building a life and having family, having trust, having more than just temporary safety. Having one of the things that happens at the end, you find out after Iron Mike, his character is killed. Iron Mike dies.
Oh no!
I'm sorry, he dies. Sorry, spoiler. But you find out that
the game's been out long enough. You're good.
He was working on making a cribbage board out of like this piece of driftwood that he had. I don't really know what cribbage is. I can't really visualize it, but he was working on making a fucking board game. And it's like such a quote unquote, waste of time when you're just trying to survive. You're trying to chop enough firewood so you don't freeze to death. You're trying to gather enough food so you don't starve to death. You're trying to fortify your walls so you don't get overrun by freakers. But he's spending his hours making a board game or a cribbage, whatever cribbage is, card game, board game. And it's like, well, that's the point. That's the living after the surviving. It's like, you do what you can to survive, but you have to reach a point eventually where you can have a reason to survive. I mean, what's the point of it if you don't have fun and friends and family and just some, I don't know, good times? And it sounds like Eddie was sort of embodying that.
I think you hit it right on the nail. I like Iron Mike. I think he's always seen, even the world of shit. I think he's always seen, the good and what could happen if people come together and build and try to learn to trust each other again. Especially in the world, a dog eat dog world. People can learn to depend on someone other than themselves, and so I think that he leads in that way, or at least that's how I saw him. Especially with filming this game, is that he, like Mike, holds on to hope, and hopefully, everything will turn out well.
I want to go back to something you were saying about when the militia comes for Eddie and how Deacon lets him go. And he says he's going to go find his people. Had the militia basically overrun Eddie's camp and captured a whole bunch of people?
Yes, from what I remember, I believe that's what happened.
Damn, that's great. Because there's mention of that in the game. That's kind of the Colonel's plan, is to eradicate other camps. There's actually a little speech he does about it. And I think, I need to double check this, but I think he actually says that they have done that with a camp to the east. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, that is actually still in the game. But we don't know the context. We don't know what he's talking about. It's just like, it's just a camp. We don't know. That would have been Eddie's camp. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know how big the camp was? Do you know if like how many people were captured or killed, or kind of how long the battle was? Do you know any context or anything like that?
I don't remember how many were captured, or even how many people were in the camp. Sorry, it has been so long that I don't have this information. I can try to see if there's anything in like these, because I remember they sent me a small script. Even back then, they were keeping all the scripts and stuff like secret, and
Yeah.
making sure no one left with it.
Yeah, I can imagine. You said you were filming this in like 2016-ish?
I believe so.
Yeah, because that would still been like 3 years before it came out. Yeah, I'm sure they were trying to keep everything very much under wraps. This game was in development for 6 years. So you were coming in like halfway through.
Yeah.
And they were still, they I think they were still writing and still like expanding it. Because I remember Sam Witwer talked about how his character, for the first year or so, they went through various tonal changes. He said they were trying to do like first of all, Deacon was just, he described it as Deacon was an asshole. Like he was just really abrasive and really grim and dark. And John Garvin realized that it's like, oh, we're expecting people to spend 60 hours plus with this guy. And he's just so unlikable. And such a dick. So they changed it.
Yeah.
They also tried to do like a buddy kind of comedy, a little bit action movie quipping kind of duo with Deacon and Boozer, where it's a lot more sort of funny or kind of like hyper real, like not really realistic, I guess. Just sort of like a movie version. And they ditched that for what we end up with, which is mostly just sort of playing it straight with a lot of like, I call it like understated depth. The Days Gone seems on the surface like it's going to be a fun game, but nothing too deep. Like, oh, you're a biker and you kill zombies. Post-apocalyptic biker dude. Okay, cool. I'm sure it'll have like a good gameplay loop, but the story's not going to really have any depth. And then you play it and it's like, whoa, shit, there's all this stuff. There's all these like really well fleshed out characters, all these deep themes, emotional storylines, surprising moments. And it's just like, you take, The Walking Dead and Sons of Anarchy, mash them together. You expect it to be kind of cliched and kind of broad and kind of predictable. And what they did was completely the opposite. And I think it just catches people off guard when they're expecting something a little more light and a little more just all action and no real heart or emotion to it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. Sometimes, a lot of people nowadays. I'm speaking because I see it as a gamer as well. It's like we get people who love story and love to look deeper into what the artist of this game was trying to say or portray in their game, and then there's other games that people just like love deadhead zombies. They just want to get in there and just kill nothing but zombies and like kind of escape in that way. But I think you definitely did hit it there on the head. Is that Days Gone is more than just a zombie game. There's tragic. There's you know depression. There's a whole bunch of things happening there. There's grieving. Especially with Deacon, my man. He's on this very long road of like he's hoping to discover that that his wife is alive, or from what I understand. But also, there's a sense of like he's just finding dead end after dead end, and so there's a sense of like you can tell he's thinking like she might be gone. There's a whole bunch of emotions there. running
Yeah.
to this character. And so you go, and it's funny that he's on a bike because you go on his ride with him, you know, as he travels and looks for who he's looking for and finding connections and stuff like that while he's traveling.
Hmm.
That you go on this emotional roller coaster of a story with Deacon, and so I think and I applaud for going deeper than the skin, which with the surface of the game, bringing something that all fans could enjoy. Because I definitely enjoyed the story, from an actor standpoint, and just someone who likes stories. I definitely really enjoyed reading their materials.
Would you come back to play Eddie if there's ever a sequel, or if there's a TV show or a movie that, we could include Eddie in some way, shape, or form? Would you want to revisit that character?
Oh yeah, I would love to. Usually when if I do a project and a character is like someone I just go to work just to do the character that day, and it didn't really stick to me, or the character didn't really have a lot of meaning, then I would remember a lot like how I remember Eddie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've made connection with this character, and there's a lot that I can relate to with Eddie. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I'll come back to definitely be part of two, or even be Eddie in a live action adaptation. So that would be awesome.
So
Yeah.
couple final questions for you. You are listed in the credits on IMDb as doing Eddie and additional
hmm
voices. Do you remember what additional voices you did?
No, I think they did that to kind of elude away from me playing Eddie. I didn't play any other character other than
Oh, you
Eddie.
didn't?
hmm
Oh,
Because
okay.
I think because they cut the whole story arc out,
Mhm.
he then becomes uh Eddie slash additional character.
Oh, okay. Because I
Yeah.
know with James, they had him record some other voices. Some of the Rippers, I think, just like, kind of random shouts and screams and grunts and things like that, and a few like exclamations. I wondered if you did anything like that. They also had
Oh,
him play character that Deacon hunts down in like one of the bounty missions. He only has like one scene
mm,
and like a few lines sort of while you're chasing him down. Did you do anything like that?
I want to say I did, but I don't remember. I think there might have been like towards the end of my last shoot day, they had asked me to we were all doubling for some crowd or something like that. And I remember holding some type of spear, and I was just waving it above as if I'm in like a protest or something. And that I think that's the only thing I remember doing outside of anything that's Eddie.
Oh my God, you might have been in Lost Lake. There's a scene right at the end where Deacon is going to go, he has to go back to Lost Lake, and the militia they've been trying to attack Lost Lake. Lost Lake is the second camp that the militia's taken out. And
Oh,
I Mike gets killed in that attack. And then Deacon kind of like rallies everyone there, or rather Ricky does, because Deacon is kind of still 1 foot in the I'm not a leader, I don't want to be part of a camp kind of thing. He doesn't
yeah.
believe that he can be part of a camp yet, that he's earned that. And everyone's like, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this for Iron Mike. And everyone like raises their guns over their heads and they chant, for Iron Mike, for Iron Mike. Do you think you might have been in that scene? Was it like kind of a chanting kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I might have been. I don't. Again, I remember what I was saying, but I think it was like a chanting type thing. I was just again. I remember me raising my hand with some type of staff and just being part of the crowd.
Yeah, I wonder if it was
That
that.
might
So
have
I
been
don't
it.
remember any other parts where there's like people raising stuff up. There's that bit where they have guns out and there's like a big group of them. And like I said, they're kind of like, rallying to go
Yeah.
fight the
It,
militia.
I mean, I could. I mean, I'm holding something, but in digital, they can always just make it seem like I'm just fist pumping the air there.
Mm.
So it could definitely be the ending scene.
That's crazy. I should
Then
send you a
I
video of
mean,
that scene and you can see if you're like, wait a minute, that's my voice, or that's me, that's my mocap. See if you recognize yourself.
I'll definitely look at it. I think I remember a few of the scenes that again it could be that scene. I don't know what they used it for. I just remember they asked me to. Can you just pretend to be a crowd member? Here you go. And I
Just pump
pretended.
this in the air and chant this. And
That's right.
they may have given you different dialogue if they didn't want to spill that Iron Mike was gonna die or something, or just, changed it later, or they just needed mocap. Who
Yeah,
knows?
man, and it's so sad now that I'm thinking about that. I could have had a chance to work with one of my castmates,
Yeah.
Eric.
Well, he was
How was
he was dead at that point, so because they're chanting for
Oh
Iron Mike like he's
no.
died and they're gonna go get revenge.
Yeah, I did. Well, I don't think Iron Mike was dead by the time they got to me. I think.
Yeah, no, it's Deacon comes to the southern region, to your map region, about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, and it's after the Colonel has already, from what you're saying, it's already attacked Eddy's camp, and then it's right at the end of the game, the Colonel turns his sights on Lost Lake, which is Iron Mike's camp. So it's
Right.
and Deacon has to go save them. Iron Mike gets shot. Deacon rallies everyone and they come back down to defeat the militia, and that's the end of the game. So it's like right at the end. So it makes sense that he's been to Eddy's camp first, because that would make sense, because he's seen one camp get taken out already, and now they're going to go take out Boozer is at that camp, and Ricky and Iron Mike, who he's, made strong connection with, and people that he wouldn't like to admit it, but he does care about them. And, now they're going to go take out that camp. And he's just like, fuck no, fuck this. No, we're stopping the militia. Because if we don't stop the militia, they're going to destroy everyone. And that's when he kind of finally accepts this new perspective of it's more than just surviving. It's more than just selfishly surviving, like just looking out for yourself. It's about standing up for a future world in which people can work together and create a good, strong, worthwhile future, a future worth living.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that would be the answer, especially in a world where everything is trying to eat human or kill humanity. Yeah, everyone come together, but not everybody. I guess not everybody thinks the same.
Yeah.
I think that's sometimes a sad message that comes across in any stories, that you hope for the best, but there are always going to be people that oppose it.
Yeah. How did you find out your character was being cut?
Well, that's the sad part. And again, I don't blame John or anybody. This is how it is. I found out the day friends and family bought the game, or maybe not the day, but 2 days after or 3 days after, because they all stayed up like the whole 2-3 days straight trying to play it, trying to get to my character, and then they end up finishing the game, and they all go, "Where's your character?"
Wait, so you didn't know? They didn't tell you?
No, until I've already promoted it to my friends and family. And
Oh my
again,
God.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this industry. I've learned that's the second time that happened, and I learned. I didn't know it was going to be like that for the game industry. Things like that happen, especially when you got a whole bunch of people working on the production, and it's not like they don't want to let people know. Is that, yeah, I get it. People get busy, and they forget to mention that you're not in this cut.
Yeah.
And so that I ended up finding out that way.
That sucks, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good attitude to have. It's like, yeah, this happens. It's the nature of the industry. But man, on a personal level, that sucks.
Yeah, so again, I have a gaming group. We used to game a lot. Now everyone's, we're all, well, plus we're all in the industry, so we get busy now.
Yeah.
But uh, like, hey man, we paid $60 for this game. Where you at?
Oh,
Oh yeah, I can laugh about it now, but back then it was a little heartbreaking, that's for sure.
yeah, I can imagine. Well, at least it wasn't your fault. Like they didn't, you weren't cut because of anything you did wrong. It sounds like your character
Mhm.
stayed in, like I said, through other storylines, like the emotional beats, the thematic weight of your character is still in the game. They just had to truncate it and kind of split it up into different characters.
Yeah,
Which is horrible and sad for you, but also it's some relief, I guess, knowing that it's not your fault and it's not that your character did anything wrong. It was just getting too long.
yeah. That's what John. After a week or so of the game being out, I did reach out to John just to see if he was going to be in downloadable content or something. And John, being very nice, he let me know what happened, and again,
Oh,
I understood, and I appreciate him letting me know instead of like, because again, not everybody's like this, but there's sometimes people don't like to answer because they either feel bad or guilty, and so you get left on hold or unanswered. But
yeah.
I'm glad John decided to let me know instead of just like not answering.
Yeah. Okay, last
And
question. I asked this of all of
mhm.
my guests on the podcast. If you were in the world of Days Gone, how would you fare and which camp would you end up in? And you haven't played the game that much, so you may not know all the camps. And obviously,
Yeah,
you had your own camp. Um,
yeah,
but if you personally, how do you think you would get on? Like, do you have any survival skills?
yeah, kind of. I did. I was growing up. I was a scout, and I have family who are in the military. I've studied a few military tactics, but I think I'll feel well enough to where, I mean, I know how to build a fire. I know how to set a tent. I know how to hunt for my own food.
Oh, that's a big one.
Um,
That's important.
yeah, but in that world, I think I'd be close to. And I think that's why I connected so well with Eddie, because I think I did a lot of things that Eddie would have done, except I think the camp, or the way it was told, the Pinnacle camp was a little bit too laid back. I think I would have tried to build a stronger team. Collab with people and find a way to make sure I have backup outside of my own camp, and find some strong bonds outside of the camp. I'll have a pretty decent camp, but just in case, hell breaks loose, like the militia coming over to my camp, I had backup.
That's probably the best answer I've ever had. I feel like out of everyone I've asked that question of, you're actually the most qualified to survive more than a week. Most people admit it's like, yeah, I like to think I would survive, but I probably wouldn't last more than a few days. It sounds like you have like a good range of skills and also a good mindset for potential to survive for,
uh,
a decent amount of time.
well, you can only hope, especially when things happen, and if they ever do happen like that. Knock on wood that no one creates a pathogen that makes people into zombies.
Yes, yeah, knock on wood, definitely.
but but yeah, I mean, I hope that that's everything goes as you see it in your head, and the skills that you acquired. You just hope that's how it goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
but aside from that, like yeah, character wise, I'm pretty much close to Eddie. I used to play football, and not anymore. Now it's just acting and making stories. That's it.
Oh, where can we see you next? What's the next thing you're acting in that you can talk about?
I could talk about what dang it. I they haven't announced it. There's a film. All I can say is there's a film. There's a Disney film that's coming out in July that I'm
Ooh.
in,
Ooh.
and so that'll be cool. See, I'm saying it without really saying it. So
No, that's awesome. We'll keep an eye out for it.
talking about creating stories. Me and my brother, we've made this Christmas movie, and we took a spin on the lore of Santa Claus and him having half Polynesian sons. So that's gonna be fun
Oh, that's
when it
awesome.
comes out. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much. This has been awesome chatting with you, and I really, really do appreciate you sharing all of your experiences, all of everything you remember, and just as a super nerd, like, it's just so cool being able to talk to people who worked on the game. And I love hearing all the stories about, like, your experiences and stuff. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for reaching out and getting me to relive that character for a little bit.